Marshall Ferguson here with your final Central Scouting Bureau rankings for the 2024 CFL Draft. These are, of course, the final rankings of the top 20 draft-eligible players going into April 30th, when you can catch the CFL Draft on TSN, or, of course, follow along on cfl.ca. We will find out who the top 10 are in just a moment, but let's begin by looking at the back half of this list. 7 of the 10 players between 20th and 11th, they are from the trenches. Offensive and defensive line depth is on display in the Central Scouting Bureau rankings, and I love looking at one player in particular. Yes, Christian Canu is in there from Washington State. I love Daniel Opoko, what he was able to do with the CFL Combine in Winnipeg, but Luke Brubacher of the Wilfrid Laurier Golden Hawks stood out for me. The top overall athletic testing of any player against their positional group. Defensive line, it was a pretty solid overall crew in Winnipeg a couple of weeks ago, but really Brubacher was the one who just jumped off the page at you when you looked at some of the scores. And he's not just a tester. Yes, he's a little bit lighter, he's a little bit undersized perhaps, but the motor is there, the production is there. I think he's going to be a great pro. I would be shocked if he gets anywhere close to the back end of the second round. Could he even be a first round pick? We'll find out coming up on April 30th. Now let's look at the top 10 here. Let's begin with number 10, Laval receiver Kevin Matal. I love what this guy is about. He's the biggest riser of any player coming out of the CFL Combine, plus 10 spots from the second edition, the winter rankings in the Central Scouting Bureau. He's the 2022 RSEQ Player of the Year, a U Sports First Team All-Canadian, of course, won the Dunsmore, the Mitchell, the Vanier, was a Heck Crichton Trophy Award winner as the best player in Canada. He's won 3 RSEQ championships, and then he comes out and he just lays it down at the Combine. He attacked the Combine wholeheartedly and looked really, really smooth, caught absolutely everything that was thrown his way. At number 9, it's Memphis linebacker Jeffrey Cantin-Arku. Now, he is predominantly going to be looked at as a weak side linebacker, but I believe he's got special teams upside and he could play middle linebacker if needed in a pinch. He is one of just 9 players to start all 13 games for Memphis this past season, had 79 tackles, 1 sack, 1 interception. At 6'3", 240, there's no questioning why he is ranked very high on the final Central Scouting Bureau rankings. At number 8, it is the Canadian darling of the draft build-up. Hulking size, sweet feet, and unusual athleticism for his size. Numerous NFL visits right now for UBC offensive lineman Giovani Manu, which could play a huge role in his CFL draft stock because there is a very real potential that he could be drafted outright in the National Football League. Will it be the mid-rounds? Will it be the late rounds? At this point, that seems like the biggest question surrounding Giovani Manu. There is no questioning the impact he would make on a CFL roster, though, which is why he's been put so highly here in the Central Scouting Bureau rankings. At number 7, it is Auburn receiver Nick Mardner. Up 4 positions from the winter rankings, the former Oakville Titan and Burlington Stampeder is the top-ranked receiver in the CFL Central Scouting Bureau rankings, 6'6", 206 pounds. And oh, by the way, he ran a 4.46 40-yard dash and had a 35-inch vert. Big body, big plays, and could be a big impact player on a CFL roster. The question is, who will take the risk of getting him and how high will they decide to make him their draft pick? At number 6, it is Cincinnati linebacker Joel Dublanko. Much discussed if you watched any of our CFL Combine coverage live on CFL Plus. He was one of the players that people wondered whether or not he even needed to be at the CFL Combine. Not only did he show up as a former first-team All-AAC linebacker, he attacked the Combine. He laid down some really good numbers. He was unable to finish the Combine after getting a little bit of a tweak, but when he was on the field, he absolutely looked the part, and now the question is, could he go in the top 3 picks? Could he potentially be the top pick? Again, much discussion around all of that. We'll find out coming up on April 30th. At number 5, it is UBC offensive lineman Theo Benedet. Now, he did drop down 3 positions from the Winter Central Scouting Bureau rankings, but he could have been the top overall pick in the 2023 CFL Draft. He deferred his draft year, decided to take a look around. A lot of NCAA schools wondered if they could get him to come down. Instead, he said, nope, I'm staying in U Sports, I'm staying with the Thunderbirds, and he very nearly came away with a Vanier Cup championship for his efforts. Of course, it was the Thunderbirds being taken down by the Montreal Caravan in the Vanier Cup championship last fall. Now he goes into the draft process. He's a part of the Pro Day at BC Place alongside his teammate, Giovani Manu, and both of them had a great opportunity to lay down some numbers. He's going to be a really good pro. He actually looks a lot to me like Chris Van Zyl, who we recently saw retire. The question now is, how quickly will he be in a CFL uniform, and which team will take the risk of knowing that he might have some other aspirations involved. The former JP Metris Trophy Award winner will be a big-time player in the CFL. Name to know? Yes. Jersey to buy? Wait and see. At number 4, it's Boston College offensive lineman Kyle Hergel. Now he jumps up one spot. He, of course, is from the Clarkson Football North football program, went to North Dakota, Texas State, on to Boston College. Where does he land now? Well, he was a former 3-star recruit coming out of high school, going into university. He's got 5-star potential written all over him in the Canadian Football League. 6'2", 315 pounds. In 2022, Pro Football Focus listed him as one of the top interior offensive linemen in the entire nation. He's got huge upside, and I think you'll see his name come off the board very, very quickly on April 30th. Into the top 3 we go, and it's tight ends. Who would have thought? Tanner McLaughlin is the first up here at number 3 from the Arizona Wildcats from Lethbridge Collegiate Institute. He appeared in all 12 games last season for Arizona, making 7 starts at tight end. And he had 34 catches, which is the most for Arizona since some guy named Rob Gronkowski. McLaughlin is a slightly challenging evaluation on the NFL side of things. Doesn't necessarily have the run blocking ability that you would think of for an inline tight end, but he does have a little bit of that wiggle that you see from CFL interior slots. Could he shed a little bit of weight potentially over the next couple of years, up that speed, and be a huge playmaker in the Canadian Football League? I think that might be the path that we see for number 3 on the Central Scouting Bureau rankings. At number 2, it's another tight end. It's Theo Johnson from Windsor, Ontario, moves up 1 spot from the Winter Central Scouting Bureau rankings. This is no exaggeration to say that Theo Johnson just had one of the greatest combines we have ever seen. If you're familiar with combine evaluation, MathBomb is probably an account that you're familiar with. They use a relative athlete score to tell you just how athletic somebody is against all the players of their same positional group. Well, Theo Johnson came out of the NFL Combine with a relative athlete score of 9.99 out of 10. He would have had a slightly better 3-cone. He would have had a perfect 10, but he looks like a perfect 10 to a lot of NFL teams. Might not be seeing Theo Johnson anytime soon, but if he ever does come up, you will recognize his ability to get off the ball and make plays down the field very quickly. Any CFL team that locks up Theo Johnson's rights will be crossing their fingers, hoping that he makes his way north of the border sooner rather than later. And finally, at number 1, he was already number 1 before, and he is not going anywhere, Illinois offensive lineman Isaiah Adams. 6'5", 320 pounds, the Ajax, Ontario native, was a team captain, started all 12 games for the Illini this past season, 2 at left guard to start the season, and he moved over to right tackle, played 10 games there. He is the real deal. The question is, will he be a part of the CFL deal and the CFL Draft coming up on April 30th? Of course, for all of your CFL Draft needs, and as we get excited for the 2024 CFL season, make sure that you're staying locked to cfl.ca.